Welcome back to Big's Little Details. This is Big. We are starting our preventative maintenance portion for our makeup air system. So your makeup air system is made up of a few parts. Your first part is your MUA, or your makeup air. Second part is your CU, or your compressor unit. So some compressor units are going to be doubled up here, and some compressor units are going to be a single, just like this one is. Let me turn this camera down a little bit so you can see what I'm seeing. Okay, now your MUA, or your makeup air, is going to be made up of a number of controls. So this is basically what we got going on here. This is going to be your VFD, or your variable frequency drive. Okay, this is going to be your high temp limit thermostat. This right here is going to be the thermostat that tells your compressor unit when it should and should not turn on. So right now we've got it set just below 70. Now here's the reason for that, okay? If you're 70, 75 degrees, and that's what you're blowing on the back of your cooks, that's okay. But if that CU is on, if that compressor unit is on, then you're going to be blowing 65-degree air on the backs of your cooks, which is going to make them happier. They're going to be in much better condition to work. Now, this right here is your burner on and off intake air thermostat. So this is going to tell you what your intake air is on the inside of this unit, and it's going to tell you whether or not this heat needs to turn on. Okay, this is set at 40 degrees, and here's why. Because once you get down to 40 degrees, it's cold on the backs of your cooks. This is where the air is going, on the backs of your cooks. It's creating that air curtain there, and so that's going to be cold. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have our burner turn on at that point, and it's going to raise the temperature. It'll only raise the temperature above 40 degrees. Well, 40 to 45 degrees is what it should be. But it'll make sure that it doesn't get below freezing on your cook line while they're trying to cook their food. So, and you've also got an interlock here. So if your unit just happens to turn off for some reason other than turning the switch or turning the power button off, then your interlock controller is going to switch over, and once it switches over, it's going to have to be reset before it can be turned back on. There's many times that I go a long distance to do a work order, and the only problem is that they had a power outage and their makeup air wouldn't turn back on because it was interlocked. So you want to make sure that you check those out, and the way to fix that is you got to reset your controller downstairs. So it's usually your number three breaker in your alpha box. So you should be able to get that done pretty well. So you do have a breaker up here. It's going to be right here. This is going to turn off the power to the entire unit, and that is everything that's connected here. You've got a couple transformers in here and some relays up top here as well. These relays, while they are interchangeable with the fan motors downstairs, they are not interchangeable with the light relay downstairs, which will be green. That's going to be something that you order through Captive Air. This is your heat exchange system. All of this is going to be preset, and it's going to be run. If there is an issue with this is going to have to be done by a licensed plumber or mechanist, and I have never seen an issue out of them. Although the units don't get heated very often in my region, I've never seen an issue out of them. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to okay, so as you can see, we've got some pretty loose belts here. Now it says these are going to take BX 58 belts. These should be BX 55 belts if I'm correct, and I believe I am. So what we're going to do today is we're going to exchange these belts for BX 55 belts. Okay, now in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut the power. We're going to use our service disconnect to cut the power today. Now there's a couple ways that you can take these belts off, including but not limited to taking these bolts loose and messing with the motor. I do not do that. When I'm taking a belt off, I do it like so. Now as you can see, those belts, they're pretty worn. And because of how worn those belts are, I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably why they were acting like that. So now when I put on belts, I like to try and make sure that number one, we're set correctly, which we're not here, which is a quick fix. We'll go ahead and we'll fix that right now. These are what I use to adjust my motors. We're gonna go in the other side here first. And now we're gonna loosen this one. Not take them off. Do not take these off. That is a nightmare that you do not want to have. All right, now we're gonna come back down here. Now every 2 years, a guy that's just like me is gonna come by and remove this entire fan housing. Okay, it's not fun, but it must be done. So when that happens, let's see if we can get this to. All right, there's one. I'm not sure why that's not letting it go down. Phew. That is pretty tight. We'll loosen that one up. There we go. Okay. Anyway, when that happens, we're going to, come on, baby. We're going to take this fan housing out and we're going to clean it. That means all of these little fins in here get cleaned. This whole unit gets cleaned. There we go. That's better. All right, there's one. Now, like I was saying before, I like to line these up so that if somebody does come to look and see what size belts that we are sporting in here, that it is, that they can see both the belts at one time. Mostly because I like to see both the belts at one time. All right, now with those reconnected, we will just tighten this up.